Hello and welcome to Transport Topics Look at the Year That Was, 2016. I'm your host for the day, Jonathan Reiskin, Associate News Editor of TT, and I'm joined by my colleague Dan Bearth, our Senior Features Writer. If you look at 2016 in terms of freight volumes, growth was meager, sometimes months were even contractions, and if you just looked at that, you might say that nothing happened, but actually a lot did, Dan. You've been writing a lot about so many issues. And one of them in particular that I know has caught your attention has been Nikola and their issuing of a brand new type of truck powered not by diesel, not by natural gas, but by hydrogen fuel cells and electricity. Tell me what you found interesting about that.
This is a company headed by a man named Trevor Milton, who's only 34 years old, but has already started 4 or 5 companies. He comes from a technology background, let's say, as opposed to a traditional trucking manufacturing background. Yes, he's designed a truck basically from the ground up that is the first, appears to be the first viable long-haul battery-powered truck. And the secret is he's able to keep the batteries charged by using this hydrogen fuel system, which is a little bit unique too, because he's proposed building a system for generating the hydrogen and distributing it through his own fueling stations. So it's a completely vertical concept of manufacturing and delivering the truck to the customer. And what's also interesting about this vehicle is its connectivity to information sources, and it looks to me like he sees the development or the sales of these vehicles being kind of a step in a process of creating a kind of a network of capacity providers, and he'll serve that community with data that they can use to plan their routes or to find freight or to handle their other businesses. To me, it was really interesting to hear him speak at the unveiling of this product in a way that pays homage to the truck driver. I think his goal here is to make life better for truck drivers and make their the business of hauling freight a little more profitable for them. Whether he succeeds or not, I don't know, because he's proposing something that is brand new, and we'll have to see. It'll take time to see this evolve, but it was refreshing, I think, to see someone come from a completely different place and at least try to create something brand new, something we haven't seen in trucking for quite a long time.
Another rival in the completely different spectrum would be auto. They made some news at ATA's Management Conference and Exhibition in Las Vegas in October, when one of the executives who helped found the now division of Uber talked about driverless trucks coming in the future. And then later that month, they ran a nearly driverless delivery of beer, 130 some miles through Colorado, with the technology taking care of the route for the middle 3/4. The driver just came in to get out of the loading dock and into the delivery location. Moving from the brand new to the old, I know that another thing you looked at was something that now is antique. The Panama Canal started early in the 1900s, but they've opened, and this seems to have had a big change upon logistics and how things are routing. What did you see out of Panama?
Yeah, this is something that was a long time coming, the expanded Panama Canal. So the feeling is that ocean shipping in the future will be dominated by bigger ships, and more of those ships will be arriving in North America through the Panama Canal and up the East Coast and the Gulf Coast. So this will balance the flow of freight a little bit more than it is currently. Most of this freight comes into the West Coast at present. these bigger ships are causing problems for the ocean carriers themselves, as you know, because it's adding capacity at a time when global freight volume really isn't growing that fast. So their profit margins are in negative territory for most of them. We saw a big bankruptcy this year involving the Korean carrier Hanjin. There will likely be much more consolidation in the year ahead for ocean carriers, but I think these bigger ships are here to stay, and the Panama Canal is a key to seeing those ships in use.
To slap some numbers on this, I know the old maximum for Panama was about 5,000 TEUs, or 20-foot equivalent unit container boxes, and some of these new ones are up around 14,000 to 14,000 from 5,000. So that is a lot of extra capacity. And as you said, Hanjin went under, stranding some ships at sea or off the coast for quite some time. You also looked at merger and acquisition activity. I think the return of contract freighters was one issue, and a couple deals from Schneider.
We always see mergers and acquisitions in trucking. It's part of the landscape now for the industry. But this year I think will be remembered for a couple major deals. The first one involved FedEx and TNT Express earlier in the year. Now TNT operates mainly in Europe, but the combination of these two companies puts FedEx on par with UPS in terms of total size and their global reach. To me, that's very interesting. You've now got two very successful companies of almost equal size and capabilities, and where they go from here remains to be seen, but it'll be quite interesting to see how that competition plays out between those. You mentioned Schneider. Schneider is a very important company in the truckload, dedicated hauling, tank truck, logistics. They do a lot of things, and they've been pretty quiet in recent years, but they acquired a company called Watkins & Shepard in Montana that specializes in hauling furniture and other large goods on an LTL basis. They do a lot of business with e-commerce companies. So Schneider is using this as a platform to create a final mile delivery service. This is probably the most active area in trucking of all. Firms figuring out how to get goods that are purchased online delivered to the customer, right? It could be a business or it could be a consumer, but that final mile delivery network is something that is yet to be created, if you will. We're seeing a lot of people move into that area. XPO is maybe the dominant player right now, and that business is growing very rapidly for them. With Amazon's success in the market, there's really no end to that business.
If we're going to talk about e-commerce, you have to mention Amazon. They added some air freight capacity, but do we know any more about what Amazon really wants to do with transportation? Did you learn anything about that this year?
Not as much as we would like to know, I guess. Amazon likes to play it close to the vest in terms of projecting what it may do in the future, but it's clear that they are creating some internal capacity for carrying freight. They have their own fleet of trailers now, and they've acquired some freighters, air freighters, and it looks like they're trying to. They're acting more like a big shipper. Many big shippers have their own private fleet to handle their kind of base volume, if you will, right? And Amazon sees the possibility of doing some of that work itself without relying on companies like FedEx, UPS, and the Postal Service to handle all of it for them. So it's a way of controlling that cost. We expect them to do more in the final mile area too, delivering to the home. They have a small fleet of trucks in some cities, and that possibly could increase in the future. We'll just have to wait and see.
All these remarks are consistent with your year in review story, which will appear in print in Transport Topics in our December 19, December 26 combined issue. As of the 19th, it'll also be available online at www.ttnews.com, as will a roundup of government news from our colleague Eugene Malero. We're concentrating on business here today. One of the things that I looked at this year a lot was equipment. There was a big deal in Navistar, which is kind of staging a bit of a comeback now. They have had problems in recent years, but they're introducing new trucks. The HX series of vocational trucks came out this year, and then later in October, the LT line haul units, and this is consistent with OEMs across the board because January 2017, there are new tighter standards on emissions. So Freightliner has seriously renovated its Cascadia tractor, its flagship model, and Volvo and Mack have come out with a new 2017 powertrain line featuring new wave pistons and a turbo compounding option and some other things to get some better mileage. Cummins has even changed its best-selling ISX 15 with a significant update to the new X15 for 2017. So complying with greenhouse gases has been a big part of the equipment world this year. In terms of the way people are selling trucks, one of the odd things about this year, the Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky in March, there were no truck makers there. The truck makers are interested in going to probably a 2-year cycle, and to capitalize on that, a new German and Canadian outfit is starting the North American Commercial Vehicle Show in Atlanta. The formation was announced this year, and the inaugural event will be in September 2017 in Atlanta. And most, but not necessarily all, truck makers are going there, but Packard's companies, Kenworth and Peterbilt, have said they will go to Mid-America in 2017 in Louisville, as will Cummins. In terms of the second phase of greenhouse gases, which was announced by the federal government this year, you'll hear more about that from Eugene Malero, but the reaction was interesting from the companies. I think the truck makers and engine makers were pretty comfortable with the proposal that came out, but trailer makers were covered for the first time, and the glider kit industry are having some significant troubles with this rule that we'll see addressed in 2017. And I think you're talking about that in your year-end preview that comes out in our January 2nd issue.
Yeah, next year is a big question mark in a lot of people's minds because of the change in administration. We don't know if this represents a course correction for a lot of the regulatory things that the industry has been faced with, or an about face where we're going to turn the clock back on some of the things that the industry has been dealing with, both in terms of emissions and fuel efficiency regs, but labor rules, hours of service, driver health issues. There's a long list of things that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has on its list of things to do, and you have to ask now whether we're looking at a period of time in which we're not going to be making many more new rules, and we may cut back on some that we currently have. So stay tuned for that.
All that is precisely why you should keep reading Transport Topics and checking us out at ttnews.com. Well, this has been the year that was, and we're eagerly looking forward to 2017 as well, as I hope you are with your enterprises, which hopefully will benefit from more freight. So thank you for tuning in, and good luck with the coming year. For Dan Bearth, I'm Jonathan Reiskin for Transport Topics. Thank you and goodbye.